The stars burned cold above the wrecked hull of the Endurance. Captain Elias Kane stood alone on the broken bridge. Blood had dried on his face and hands. One eye was swollen almost shut. The ship around him was silent now, no more alarms, no more voices. His crew was gone, every single one of them. The corridors were dark and full of holes. Air hissed out in thin streams. The life support was failing. Elias had fought hard, too hard maybe. When the Sarathian dreadnoughts appeared on sensors, he knew the Endurance had no chance. Still, he ordered the crew to battle stations. They fired every missile they had. They held the line until the shields collapsed and boarding pods ripped through the hull. He watched good people die, friends who laughed with him over bad coffee, who trusted him with their lives. He kept fighting even after the last Marine fell beside him. He fought with a broken rifle, then with a combat knife, then with his bare hands until they dragged him away. They did not kill him, they took him prisoner. Now he knelt on the cold black floor of the Imperial audience chamber. Heavy chains bound his wrists and ankles. The air smelled strange, like clean metal mixed with something sweet and sharp. All around him stood thousands of Sarathians, tall beings with smooth iridescent scales that shifted color in the soft light. Their eyes glowed faintly. They did not shout or move much. They simply watched. Their minds were linked in a great shared web of feeling. What one felt, they all felt. No secrets, no loneliness. Or so it seemed. At the far end of the chamber rose the throne. It was not stone or metal. It was living crystal that pulsed with violet light. The Empress sat upon it, Veloria IX. She was taller than the others, her scales deep midnight blue that caught the light like oil on water. Long filaments rose from her brow like a crown, glowing softly as they connected her to the minds of her empire. Her face was calm and beautiful in an alien way. Her eyes were bright amber, old as time. She looked down at the small, bloody human before her and felt nothing the others could share. She spoke. Her voice was deep and smooth. It filled the chamber without effort. Human, you are called Elias Kane, captain of the lost ship Endurance. Your kind is new to us, weak, divided, always fighting alone. She leaned forward just a little. The crystal throne moved with her like it was part of her body. You fought when there was no hope. You guarded the dead. You refused to kneel even when death stood at your shoulder. Such waste, such strange waste, it interests me. A soft ripple passed through the court. Not sound but feeling, surprise, confusion, a tiny wave in their shared calm. I have sat on this throne for 4,000 years, she said. I have seen stars born and die. I have ended wars and built peace. No being has ever puzzled me like this. She paused. Her long tail curled slowly around one leg of the throne. Because of this puzzle, I give you a rare gift. One wish, any wish my power can grant. Name it, speak clearly. It will be yours, no tricks, no hidden cost. The chamber became very still. Everyone waited. The nobles and advisors thought they knew what he would ask. Safety for his world, powerful weapons, long life, advanced medicine, maybe even riches or pleasure. Humans were simple, they believed, greedy, easy to understand. Elias lifted his head. His good eye met hers. He did not look at the throne or the crown, he looked at her. Seconds passed, the silence grew heavy. Then he spoke. His voice was quiet but clear, tired but sure. I wish for you. The words hung in the air. Nothing moved. Then the court exploded. Hisses, sharp cries, claws scraped against stone. One tall advisor stepped forward, scales flashing red with rage. This is madness, he claims the Empress, kill him now. Others shouted agreement. The shared feeling turned sharp and angry. It pressed against Elias like heat from a fire. Veloria raised one clawed hand. The noise stopped instantly. She stared at the human. Her amber eyes narrowed. For the first time in thousands of years, something private moved inside her, something the others could not touch. It felt like fear, but not quite. It felt like waking up after a very long sleep. Speak plainly, she said. Explain this wish. Elias took a slow breath. His chest hurt. "I saw you," he said. "When your ships closed around us, when your voice spoke over the comms, everyone else heard an Empress, a ruler. I heard someone who has not been chosen in a very long time, not followed because they must, not obeyed because they rule, chosen just because." He looked straight at her. "You sit there with billions around you. They love the empire, they serve the crown, but no one sees you, the real you, the one who might be tired or sad or afraid. No one chooses that person." He lifted his chained hands a little. "I do not want your ships or your secrets. I do not want power or long life. I want you, the part no one else wants, just you." The court burst again. Louder this time, demands for his death, calls for order, but Veloria did not blink. She rose from the throne. The crystal steps flowed under her feet as she walked down. Her robes made a soft sound like wind over water. She stopped close to him, close enough that he could smell her, like rain and night flowers and something electric. Up close she was taller, stronger, more alien. Yet her eyes searched his face like she was trying to read a book in a language she had forgotten. "You choose me," she said slowly, "knowing I can never give you children like your own, knowing our bodies are not the same and any closeness would need hard changes, knowing I belong to this empire until the end of time." Elias nodded once. "I know." Her tail moved, a quick, sharp flick, the first real sign of feeling she had shown. "You are either very brave," she said, "or very foolish." She looked at the guards. "Take off his chains." They hesitated. "Now." The chains fell away with a heavy clank. Elias stood up slowly. He was shorter than almost everyone there, bruised, bleeding, but he stood straight. Veloria studied him again. "You will stay in the palace," she said. "Under my watch, I will think about your wish." Whispers spread through the ranks, shock, disbelief. She turned and walked back to the throne, but before she sat, she looked over her shoulder at him. Just once. In her eyes was something small and bright, something no one else in the great chamber could feel. A beginning. The palace was quiet in a way Elias had never known. No engines hummed. No voices shouted orders. Only the soft click of his boots on black stone floors and the distant whisper of air moving through hidden vents. The guards led him through long halls lined with glowing crystal panels. Their scales shifted colors as they walked, mostly calm blues and greens, but sometimes a flash of orange when they glanced at him. They brought him to a wide room high in one of the towers. The door opened without touch. Inside was a bed big enough for 3 humans, soft cushions in deep purple, a low table with strange fruit and clear water, and a window that looked out over the capital city. Towers rose like frozen lightning. Ships drifted silently between them. Lights moved in perfect patterns. It was beautiful. It was also a prison. The guards removed the last of his restraints. One of them spoke in careful, translated words. "You stay here, food comes. Water comes, do not leave this floor. The Empress decides what happens next." They left, the door sealed with a soft hiss. Elias stood in the middle of the room for a long time. His body ached. His head throbbed. He walked to the window and pressed his palm against the cool surface. It felt like glass but warmer. Below him the city stretched forever. He thought of Earth, of the blue oceans and green forests he might never see again, of the faces of his crew. He closed his eyes and let the grief sit heavy in his chest. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time felt strange here. No clocks, no sun that moved the same way. Food trays appeared on the table when he was not looking, strange meats that tasted like smoke and honey, bread that melted on the tongue, fruits that burst with sweet juice. He ate because he had to. He slept on the bed because his body demanded it. On the 3rd day, or what he guessed was the 3rd day, the door opened again. A single Sarathian entered, not a guard. This one was smaller, with scales the color of pale dawn. She carried a flat tablet that glowed softly. Her eyes were gentle. I am Lyra, she said. I serve the Empress. She sends me to speak with you. Elias sat up. What does she want to know? Lyra tilted her head. She wants to understand. Your wish confuses her. It confuses all of us. He gave a tired smile. I'm not surprised. Lyra stepped closer. She did not sit. Sarathians rarely sat when speaking to equals, or so he had heard. Our people do not choose one, she explained. We share, we feel together. The Empress is the center. Her feelings flow to every mind. When she is calm, the empire is calm. When she is strong, we are strong. To take her for yourself, it is like asking to pull the heart from a body. Elias looked at her. I didn't ask to take her from anyone. I asked to be with her, just her. Not the empire, not the throne, her. Lyra's tail curled slowly. That is what we do not understand. Why her? Why not ask for your planet to be safe? Why not ask for knowledge or power? Because those things can be taken or given by anyone with enough strength, Elias said. But choosing someone, really choosing them, that only happens when you see them. Not what they can do for you, not what they rule, just them. Lyra was quiet for a moment, then she spoke again, softer. The Empress has not spoken to the court since you said those words. She stays in her private chambers. She does not eat. She does not rest. The shared feeling, it trembles, like a storm under calm water. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. She's scared. Lyra looked surprised. Empresses do not feel fear. They do, he said. They just hide it better than most. Lyra studied him. Then she bowed slightly and left without another word. More days passed. Elias spent them walking the room, doing slow exercises to keep his body strong, staring out the window. Sometimes he talked to himself. Sometimes he talked to the ghosts of his crew. He told them he was sorry. He told them he was still fighting in his own way. One night the lights in the room dimmed without warning. The air grew cooler. Elias sat on the edge of the bed, waiting. The door opened. Veloria stepped inside alone. She looked different. Her imperial robes were gone. She wore only a simple long garment of dark silk that clung to her form. Her glowing crown filaments were dimmed almost to nothing. Her scales caught the low light in soft waves instead of sharp flashes. She looked smaller, more real. She closed the door behind her. It sealed. Elias stood up slowly. Neither spoke at first. She walked to the window and looked out at her city. Her tail moved in slow, thoughtful arcs. I have thought about your words, she said at last. Her voice was quieter than in the throne room, almost human in its tiredness. Elias stayed where he was, and I have lived 4,000 years, she said. I have seen lovers in every form across 1,000 worlds. I have watched species rise and fall because of love. I thought I understood it. I was wrong. She turned to face him. Our kind removed it long ago. Love between two was dangerous. It made jealousy, it made war, it made pain. So we changed ourselves. We made the link. We share everything. No one is alone. No one is special. It is safe. It is perfect. Her amber eyes met his. But it is also empty. Elias took one step closer. You feel it too. She did not answer right away. Her claws flexed once, then relaxed. I feel something, she said. When you spoke in the chamber, when you looked at me, not at the throne, not at the power, but at me, it was like cold water on skin that has never felt temperature. Sharp, strange. I did not know what to do with it. She looked down at her own hands. I ran simulations, thousands of them. I asked the old minds stored in the archives. I asked philosophers who died 10,000 years ago. None of them had an answer for this. Elias smiled a little, because it's not something you solve, it's something you feel. Veloria lifted her gaze again. You would choose a being who cannot give you what your kind needs. No children, no normal touch without pain or machines. An empress who belongs to everyone and no one. I know, he said simply. Why? Because I saw you, he answered. In that moment on the bridge of my ship when your voice came over the comms, I heard more than orders. I heard someone who has carried too much for too long, someone who is tired of being perfect. I wanted to give you one thing no one else ever gave you, a choice, someone who picks you first. Her tail lashed once, quick and sharp, the first real crack in her calm. You make it sound simple, she said. It is simple, Elias replied. It's just hard. Silence stretched between them. Then Veloria spoke again, so quietly he almost missed it. I have never been chosen before, not like this. Elias nodded. I know. She took one step toward him, then another. She stopped close enough that he could see the tiny flecks of gold in her amber eyes. I do not know what to do with this feeling, she said. It frightens me. He looked up at her. That's okay. Being frightened means it matters. For a long moment, neither moved. Then she reached out. Her clawed fingers brushed the side of his face very lightly. Her touch was cool and careful, like she was afraid she might break him. I will decide soon, she whispered, but not tonight. She turned and walked to the door. Before it opened, she looked back at him. Thank you, she said, for seeing me. The door closed behind her. Elias stood there in the dim room. His heart beat hard. For the first time since the endurance fell, he felt something like hope. The days in the tower room blurred together. Elias marked time by small things. The way the light from the city changed color at what he guessed was night, the fresh trays of food that appeared silently, the soft hum of the palace that never quite stopped. He exercised every day, push-ups on the floor, slow stretches, shadow boxing against the window. His body healed slowly. The bruises faded to yellow. The cut above his eye closed into a thin scar. He felt stronger but restless. He talked to the empty room sometimes. You'd laugh at this place, Maria, he said to the memory of his chief engineer. No coffee, no bad jokes, just fruit that tastes like candy and silence that presses in. He smiled at nothing. It hurt less now. One morning, or what felt like morning, the door opened without warning. Lyra entered again. This time she carried a small bundle wrapped in dark cloth. Behind her came two guards, but they stayed outside. The Empress wishes you to learn, Lyra said. She set the bundle on the table. She says knowledge will help you understand us, and perhaps help her understand you. Elias opened the cloth. Inside were thin crystal tablets that glowed when he touched them. They felt warm, like living things. One showed moving images of Sarathian history. Another held their language, simple sounds turned into symbols he could practice. You will have teachers, Lyra continued. They will come here, you will not leave this floor, but you may ask questions. Elias nodded. Thank her for me. Lyra's eyes flickered. She hears everything through the link, but she prefers words spoken aloud lately. She left. Soon after, the first teacher arrived, an old Sarathian named Torin. His scales were dull silver, almost gray. He moved slowly. His voice was patient. They began with basics, how to say simple words, how the empire worked. Elias listened hard. He repeated sounds until his throat ached. Torin corrected him gently. No anger, no impatience, just endless calm. Days turned into what Elias guessed were weeks. More teachers came. One taught him about the Great Link, the web of minds that connected every Sarathian. No one was ever truly alone. Pain shared meant less pain. Joy shared meant more joy. Privacy did not exist. Secrets could not hide. Elias asked questions. What happens when someone wants something just for themselves? Torin paused. That is rare and dangerous. Long ago, before the link was complete, such wants caused wars. Lovers fought over one another, families broke, cities burned. We removed the flaw. So no one falls in love anymore. Love as you mean it, no. We have deep care, we have unity. That is better. Elias thought about that at night. He stared at the ceiling and wondered if Veloria ever missed the old way, if she ever wanted something sharp and selfish and hers alone. Sometimes he caught glimpses of palace life through the window, processions of nobles, ships arriving with bright banners, crowds gathered in squares far below, all moving in perfect harmony. It looked peaceful. It looked lonely. One evening the lights dimmed early. The air grew thick with a sweet scent he had not smelled before. The door opened. Veloria stepped inside. She wore the simple silk again. No crown, no glow. Her scales looked softer in the low light. She carried nothing. She closed the door and stood there looking at him. Elias stood up from the floor, where he had been practicing Sarathian words. "You are learning fast," she said. "I have good teachers." She walked to the window. Her tail moved slowly. "They tell me you ask many questions about the link, about our past." "I want to understand," he said. "You offered me a wish. I want to know what I'm asking for." She turned. Her amber eyes caught the city lights. "And what have you learned?" "That your people traded one kind of pain for another. You ended wars and loneliness, but you also ended choice. No one picks a friend because they like their laugh. No one picks a partner because their eyes make your heart jump. Everything is shared. Everything is safe." Veloria's claws tapped once against the window frame. "Safe is good." "Safe can be empty," Elias said quietly. She looked at him for a long time. "I have not slept," she said suddenly. "Not truly. Not since you spoke in the throne room. The link trembles. My advisors feel it. They whisper that you are poison, that one human thought could unravel 4,000 years. Elias took a careful step closer. "Do you think I'm poison?" "No," she answered. "I think you are a mirror. You show me something I forgot I had." She moved closer, close enough that he could feel the faint warmth from her scales. "I have spoken to the old minds," she said. "The ones stored before the link. They tell stories of love, of pain, of joy so strong it hurt. I listened for hours, days. I still do not understand." Elias smiled a little. "You don't have to understand it all at once." Her tail curled. "You make it sound easy." "It's not easy," he said, "but it's worth it." Silence fell between them. Then she spoke again, softer than before. "When I look at you, I feel something separate, not shared, not diluted, just mine. It scares me. It also pulls me." Elias met her eyes. "That's how it starts." She reached out. Her fingers brushed his arm, light, careful. Her touch was cool but not cold. "I have never touched anyone like this," she said. "Not without the link flowing through it, not just me." He did not move away. "How does it feel?" "Strange, good, dangerous." She let her hand drop. "I have decided nothing yet," she said. "The council grows restless. They want an answer. They want your head or your exile. I told them no, not yet." Elias nodded. "Thank you." "Do not thank me," she said. "I do this for myself as much as for you." She walked to the door. Before she left, she looked back. "Keep learning," she said. "I want you to know what you choose." The door closed. Elias sat on the bed. His heart beat fast. He felt the weight of her words. The Empire was watching, waiting. A storm was building. But in this small room, something quiet and real had begun. Outside, the city lights moved in perfect lines. Inside, a human and an Empress had taken the first small step towards something no simulation could predict. The palace felt different now. The air carried a sharp edge, like the moment before a storm. Elias noticed it in small ways. Guards moved faster, their scales flashing brighter reds and purples. Servants spoke in low voices. Even the city lights outside his window seemed to pulse quicker, as if the whole empire held its breath. He had not seen Veloria for many days. Lyra came less often. When she did, her words were careful. "The council meets every hour," she said once. "They demand a decision. They say the link shakes. They say one human thought spreads like sickness." Elias asked, "What does she say?" Lyra looked away. "She says nothing, she listens. Then she asks more questions about you." He spent his time training harder. He ran in place until sweat soaked his borrowed clothes. He lifted the heavy table like a weight. He practiced moves he learned long ago, quick strikes, blocks, ways to turn an enemy's strength against them. His body remembered the old Marine drills. It helped him think clearly. One afternoon the door opened wide. 4 guards entered. Their faces were blank. One spoke. "Come, the Empress calls you." They led him through halls he had never seen, down wide stairs carved from black crystal, past rooms filled with glowing orbs and silent figures. The air grew colder. The light dimmed. They stopped before huge double doors made of living metal. The doors opened without sound. Inside was the great council chamber, a round room with high walls. Hundreds of Sarathians sat in tears. All eyes turned to him. Their shared feeling pressed against his skin like cold wind, anger, fear, confusion. At the center stood Veloria. She wore full imperial robes again. Her crown filaments glowed bright violet. Her tail lay still. She looked like a statue of power. But Elias saw the small signs. Her claws gripped the edge of a low table too tightly. Her eyes flicked to him the moment he entered. Beside her stood the High Advisor Kael'th, tall, scales deep crimson, voice like breaking ice. "The human stands before us," Kael'th said. "He has poisoned the Empress's mind. He asks for what cannot be given. He threatens the link itself." Murmurs rose, sharp hisses, tails lashed. Veloria raised her hand. Silence fell. "I have listened," she said. Her voice carried clear across the chamber. "I have weighed every word, every warning, every fear." She looked at Elias. "He asked for me, not the throne, not the empire, me." Kael'th stepped forward. "This is madness, Majesty. The link is our strength. One mind claiming you breaks it. Already the young feel unrest. Emotions rise that should not exist. Jealousy, want, pain. These are the old flaws we removed." More voices joined. "Execute him. Send him away. Protect the harmony." Veloria's tail moved once, slow and deliberate. "I will speak," she said. She stepped down from the raised platform. She walked to Elias. The guards tensed but did not stop her. She stopped close to him, close enough that he could see the tiny golden flecks in her eyes. "I choose to grant his wish," she said. The chamber exploded. Shouts, screams. Scales flashed every color of rage. Several nobles stood. Their minds pushed through the link, waves of fury meant to force obedience. Veloria did not flinch. But the attack turned toward Elias. He felt it like needles in his brain. Pressure. Voices that were not his own telling him to kneel, to die, to disappear. Sarathians could bend weaker minds with thought alone. Elias staggered. His knees buckled. Pain bloomed behind his eyes. But he did not fall. Humans had never been part of the link. Their minds resisted. The pressure hurt, but it did not break him. He straightened. Blood trickled from his nose. He wiped it away with the back of his hand. Then he moved. One guard lunged. Elias caught the arm, twisted, threw the tall body into another. A third swung claws. Elias ducked, drove his fist into the soft scales under the ribs. The guard hissed and dropped. He fought like a cornered animal. No weapons, only speed and years of training. He blocked. He struck. He protected the space around Veloria without thinking. She stood still, watching. The council froze. A human, small, fragile mortal stood between the Empress and her own people, bleeding, breathing hard, unbroken. The shared fury cracked. Silence returned. Veloria spoke again. Her voice was calm now, strong. "I will sever my link," she said. "For a time I will walk alone, I will feel alone, I will choose alone." Gasps rippled through the tears. Kael'th's scales went pale. "Majesty, no one has done this since the dark cycles. The Empire will weaken. You will weaken." "I know," she answered. She turned to Elias. "I do this because I want to," she said. "Not because I must. Not because the Empire needs it, because I want to know what it feels like to choose, to be chosen. She reached out, her clawed hand rested on his shoulder, light, steady. You fought for me, she said quietly. Not for power, not for survival, for me. Elias looked up at her, his voice was rough. I'd do it again. She nodded once. To the council, she said, the human stays. He is under my protection. Any who move against him move against me. Kael'th bowed stiffly, as you command. The chamber emptied slowly. Whispers followed them out. The link trembled harder now, but no one dared act. Veloria led Elias away, through a side door into a quiet corridor, alone. She stopped, turned to him. I will feel everything, she said. Fear, joy, pain, all of it, without sharing, without safety. He nodded. It won't be easy. No, she agreed, but it will be mine. She touched his face. Her fingers traced the new scar above his eye. You are hurt. I've had worse. She smiled. It was small, real, the first true smile he had seen from her. Come, she said, there is a garden. No one will disturb us there. They walked together, side by side. Empress and human, no guards, no link, just two beings stepping into something new and frightening and alive. Behind them, the palace hummed with change. Ahead lay a path no one had walked in thousands of years. Years passed in the way time moves for immortals, slowly for the body, quickly for the heart. The capital city still rose in sharp towers of crystal and light. Ships still drifted between them in perfect lines. But something had changed. The shared link no longer pressed as hard. Minds felt freer. Some Sarathians smiled more. Others looked afraid. A few even walked alone in the gardens just to feel the quiet. Elias and Veloria lived in a private wing high above the palace. No guards stood at the doors. No advisors whispered through the walls. The rooms were simple now, soft cushions, low tables, wide windows that caught the stars. Flowers from many worlds grew in pots along the walls. Some were earth plants Elias had asked for, small blue ones that smelled like rain. He cared for them himself. Veloria had changed too. Her scales no longer shone with the hard imperial glow. They looked warmer, softer, like deep water under sunlight. The crown filaments on her brow had faded almost completely. She kept them dim on purpose. She said it helped her think with her own mind, not the Empire's. She moved slower. She laughed sometimes, short, surprised sounds that made Elias smile. They walked together every evening, through the private garden on the roof. Paths of smooth black stone wound between glowing trees. Small lights floated above like fireflies. No one else came here. One evening they stopped at the edge. The city spread below them. Lights moved in slow rivers. Far away, new ships arrived from distant stars. The Empire still grew. It still ruled, but it breathed differently now. Veloria leaned on the low wall. Her tail curled loosely around one of Elias' legs, a habit she had picked up without thinking. I remember the day you spoke your wish, she said. Her voice was quiet. In the throne room, when the words left your mouth, my mind went blank. Not anger, not confusion, just nothing. Like the link had stopped for one heartbeat. Elias stood beside her. He looked at the city too. I thought you would laugh, he said, or kill me. She turned her head. Her amber eyes caught the starlight. I almost did both, she admitted. The council screamed for your blood. My own mind screamed too. Fear, pure fear. No Empress had ever been chosen like that, not as a person, not as something small and breakable, only as power, as symbol, as forever. She paused. Her claws tapped once on the stone. I had spent 4,000 years being needed, obeyed, worshipped, but never wanted, not the way a single heart wants another. When you said those words, I felt it, the first real one of my own. It terrified me more than any war, more than the dark cycles, more than death. Elias reached out. He took her hand. Her fingers closed around his, cool scales against warm skin. I saw your face, he said, Just for a second, before the shouting started, your eyes changed. They looked lost, like someone who had been alone in a crowd forever and suddenly heard their name called. She nodded slowly. That was the moment, she said. The first tear came then, silent, no one saw it but me. It fell inside, no one in the link felt it, it was mine alone, and it burned. She looked down at their joined hands. I cried because I realized I had forgotten how to be chosen, how to be enough without the crown, how to be afraid of losing someone, how to hope they would stay. Ilya squeezed her hand. You're not losing me, he said. She smiled, small, real. I know, she answered, but knowing does not stop the fear, it just makes it worth feeling. They stood quiet for a while. The wind moved through the garden. Flowers nodded gently. Veloria spoke again. The empire did not fall, she said. Many feared it would. When I cut the link for those first months, panic spread. Some worlds rebelled, some minds broke, but others discovered they could feel alone and still be strong. They discovered choice. They discovered love, not the safe, shared kind, but the sharp, risky kind. The kind that hurts and heals at the same time. She looked at him. You started that, she said. One small wish. One foolish human who saw the Empress and not the throne. Elias shook his head. No, he said. You started it the moment you chose to listen, the moment you chose to feel it all, alone. She leaned closer. Her forehead touched his gently, scales against skin. I choose you back, she whispered. The words came easy now. She had said them many times over the years, but each time they felt new. Elias closed his eyes. I know, he said. They stayed like that until the stars grew brighter. Later they sat on a wide bench under one of the glowing trees. Veloria rested her head on his shoulder, her tail wrapped around his waist. I still do not understand everything, she said. I still feel strange sometimes, like my heart is too big for my body, like I want too much. That's how it works, Elias told her. You get used to it or you don't. Either way, it's yours. She laughed softly. I like that, she said. Mine. They watched the city a while longer. Far below in the streets, young Sarathians walked hand in hand, not in perfect lines, not sharing every thought, just two, choosing each other. It was still rare. It still caused whispers, but no one stopped them. The empire changed slowly, painfully, beautifully. And in the quiet garden above it all, an immortal empress and a mortal man sat together, not as ruler and subject, not as symbol and stranger, just as two beings who had chosen each other against every rule of time and stars. Veloria lifted her head. Thank you, she said. For what? For seeing me first, for staying. Elias smiled. Thank you, he answered, for choosing back. The night stretched on. The stars watched. And somewhere in the long silence between heartbeats, the universe felt a little less cold.